G'day and welcome to David Joshua Ford Live. This is episode 87, and on today we're going to take a look at Canon PTZ Control tally lights that have some triggers that have been built into a 4.1.1 update. And we're also going to look at a live event demo, and I want to show you how to use the profile that I've built to be able to take your Canon cameras and your control profile to an event and to switch a live event, because this is what I use when I cut events, and I just wanted to sort of demonstrate that as we go along. If you're in the chat, say g'day and let me know where you're joining from, and also if you have any questions, we can get to those as we sort of go through this. All right, let's kick things off. And I wanted to start with a look at DJF 4.1.1, which is a Canon PTZ Control. So I updated to 4.1 last week, which had some changes for the ATEM, the general sort of DJFQ, and also a lot of changes for the Canon PTZ lineup. But since then, I had some tally light triggers that I wanted to add in. So the 4.1.1 update is just the tally lights for the Canon PTZs, not actually the ATEMs. So if we take a look at the triggers over here, so if you download this update and install this, now you'll have all of these triggers in here so that you can get the tally light coming on. Let me see if I can pull up this overhead camera that I've here, and I'll run this, so you should see that'll be the red light coming on, and then when it goes off, run this one again. That is how that will play out. So very simply, just by sort of switching on and off with your ATEM. So this tally light is linked to the ATEM. So these are commands that are looking for which input is assigned to the ATEM. So in the way that I've built the profile too, we can take a look at this one here. I'm using a variable here. So I'm saying when ME1, so I'm using mix effect layer 1 at the moment. So this variable will equal out as 1. So when ME1 has camera 2 online, and this variable would by default be camera 2, 1 is 1, 2 is 2, that kind of stuff. But you can actually change these variables in here so that if you had camera 2 in this layout and you wanted to reassign it to your ATEM's input 13, then you could, this variable will be telling it 13. So it is quite flexible across larger ATEMs. If you don't want to line up your cameras from 1 to 6 in inputs on the ATEM 1 to 6, it will actually read that in whatever input that you put in there. So that is basically how that, just install that and they're on, and it'll run. Next up, let's take a look at a live event demo. So I've shown you how to sort of use the profile, but I wanted to go into an actual event that I shot for New York Climate Week that was on recently, and just to take a look at how you might want to use this event. So let's jump over into Resolve, and I'll just jump in here. So this was an event where it was only called for 2 cameras, although I did bring a third. And so what we're looking at here is those 3 cameras and the program feed. Let me just make this one full screen so we can see. So we've got program feed up here, and then the wide shot, the close-up of the panel, and then I have the Tail-Air PTZ camera, which I was able to just put up wirelessly and use NDI to bring that back into my switcher. So that was a really neat little setup that we have there. Let me go to a couple of pictures I have here. So this was the venue, and some of the restrictions that I had was I couldn't actually lay any cables across the floor. So, and then also the layout of this room was a little bit awkward, where you've got seats either side and then this pillar in the middle. So I actually got my cameras on the other side of the pillar, so they got a good vantage point of the people who are in the panel. But then I couldn't run any cables sort of out to the next room because of the floor. I couldn't gaffer tape down. So this was one of those scenarios where more and bigger equipment isn't always better. I had to have a really small footprint. So this was how it ended up being, just like with a little table, and I had the Stream Deck to doing the switching, and then my multi-view from the ATEM Extreme was actually feeding into the computer. So it was a really super small setup, very easy to sort of roll up, get the cameras set up, connected, and away we went. And I didn't sort of take up too much footprint in the room there. I got everything into, I sort of built a custom rig, which I would kind of like to, I really like the Extreme. The ATEM Extreme is very flexible in terms of its recording and its outputs. And so here I have the ATEM SDI Extreme ISO doing the recording as well as looping out to the USB. And I basically threw together a kit and put it into the Pelican, which also included the cameras, so I could just roll up with that Pelican and a tripod and get going. This is the cameras from the room here. So as we looking, you can see me back there. I can actually jump in here. Maybe I'll look in here. So yeah, just sort of blacked them down and had two cameras on one tripod, zooming right in there. I'm around the back of the pillar. And then I've got a little room mic just for backup and two PTZ cameras, have a wide and a tight. So that was basically what the job was. But as I said, I also threw in a wireless NDI OBSBot tail air PTZ camera running NDI. So that was handy just to get an audience shot. And again, this was the cables just wrapping around the pillar, and like I said, we weren't able to put anything on the floor because there are sort of delicate floors that we have going on there. That's front shot there. So I've got one camera, the wide camera on the tripod, and then I've just basically clamped on the secondary PTZ camera. So I'm using one tripod and the microphone. Also, this venue did not have any line out for the audio that was in-house. So I had to sort of improvise and take a wireless microphone from one of the speakers and sort of feed that into the Mix Pre 3, and then that was going into the ATEM. So this is my ultimate setup here, which had room for the cameras to be put there where the gap tape is. That's where the cameras would have been. And then I've got basically an ATEM Extreme doing the switching. And very importantly, I have a GL iNet router up the back there, which I should talk about at some point, because that has also got capability for SIM cards and sort of lining up things like that. And then what else do I have in there? I've got an NDI to HDMI converter to bring the third camera in from the wireless and then convert that bidirectional converter into the SDI. So that's how all of my setups are getting in there. And then basically that's me sort of switching away on these cameras. And the good thing about this profile is that the Canon PTZ cameras and the Blackmagic ATEM is all in that one interface. So you can actually add on 2, 3, 4 more Stream Deck surfaces, but I also wanted to build it so you could just run it with a single surface. And it basically looks like this. And so the cameras are along here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. And then I've got a cut auto button here. So this is gonna jump across. So I can cut back this way, and then the cameras are showing me in the background whether it's on air or whether it's on program. So if I select camera 2, I can see that this background color is telling me that I'm on air. So if I make any movements like this, then that is actually going to be reflected on air, whereas camera 1 is in preview here. So the way that I set up a show is particularly for this type of thing where I just want a 2-camera setup, and then I guess I've got a third one. But essentially I'm having camera 1 as a wide shot, and I'll use that looping. So you can either set, so this would be my wide shot here. So I can set the time. So I want to set maybe like a 30-second, I'm going to do it 7 seconds just so you can see the difference. But between a wide and a close, and then I would just set loop, and then I would save my presets wherever I wanted them, and then I would just start the loop by selecting the next preset. So if you imagine what you're seeing here is the wide shot of the room, and that is just sort of doing a zoom in and out. So it means that you don't have to have a wide shot that is just static. You can give it a bit of movement. So by default, this profile can go loop between 2 presets. So it's very easy just to get like a bit of panning back and forth or zooming in and out if you want to do that. But if you want to, you can also go into the software and add up to 5 presets and custom build that. So that's what I did for this show. I set up 4 different points around the room, and then and then sort of set camera 1 on a loop, and then I was able to use camera 2 for my close-ups. And as I would, this preview program button means that it can be either off or it can be on preview mode, which means that as I select a camera, it's actually putting this up into my preview. So when I select a camera, I can then select camera 1, for example, and then I can cut across to that camera. So it makes it easy to preview things before you bring it on air, sort of a director mode. Or otherwise, the program mode is a bit more, it's gonna cut to air when you select when you recall one of the presets, not so much when you select the actual camera itself. So, but for these type of events, I'm usually using a preview mode, so that every time I select a camera, it's immediately put up into the preview of the monitor, and I can sort of know that the next action I take in cutting will bring that onto air. All right, I'm gonna try and bring up my wide shot here. Let me jump across to here, and we're still zooming in and out, as you can see. So this is a wide shot of the room. I could have just set a static shot like this, but instead what I was looking for were creating basically 4 presets that I would sort of set the different points of the room. And then when I execute the loop, it's going to be doing a very slow pan. And I always want it wide enough so that when if I ever need to cut back to this, it's always a safety shot. So I'm not doing anything crazy with this shot. I always want to make sure the panel is in view somewhere. So if we jump through, this is kind of the loops that it's going through here. So we've got, see if I can just scrub through. Okay, so this would be the wide shot. So this is like 0.1, and then I would zoom in to here and set this point. You can see that one there. So now that I've set this point as, say, for example, point number 2, that's saved for that, and I just want to go find point 3. So 3 is basically like the left side of the room with the panel. So I've saved that into preset 3, and then I'll find preset 4, like that, and then so that would be my 4 presets. And then in Companion, which I can sort of show you at the end of this, I can actually create a more detailed trace. So rather than just the 2 back and forth, you can have up to 5 that will either sort of go back and forth along that circuit of 5 presets, or we'll do a loop through those 5 presets. So that's where, you know, this camera is always a safety. I can always jump back onto it, and it's going to get me out of trouble when I'm doing things on my second camera that I need to cut away from. All right, so that's camera 2. Let's go back to Resolve, pull up the close shot here, and now I'm sort of bringing up more presets here. So with camera 2, that's where I'm saving basically the panelists. So I've got 4 panelists. So I'd be saving panelist 1, and I've also got panelists with the screen. So that'd be another preset that I'd save. I'd have panelist 3. This is panelist 3. This is panelist 2, and then panelist 4. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4 positions that I would save to close up, so that I can quickly bounce in to select these individual people. And then I've got the wide shot with the screen, so I can sort of get the slides in there. And I think that was mostly it. I didn't really have any wider shots with this one. I think I had like I also saved where is it? I did occasionally use, I can't find it in here. I think it's somewhere in there. I had a 4-shot. So you're gonna have to take my word for it. I didn't use it very much. So I also had a 4-shot, and then I had 2 pairs of left and right. So not only are those shots that I could then zoom into to pick up pairs, like if they're talking to each other, but they're also then positions that I can move and do an on-air maneuver from one to the other. I'm trying to see if I have any of those in here. That would be, because some of these might just be a reposition. Like this, for example, is a reposition. So I've cut to a wide shot, and then the camera is very quickly just pulling up the next shot here. So, and then this, okay, for example, so this is preset number 1. And then I've done an on-air maneuver, which is basically sort of setting my time here to like 7 seconds. And rather than, so repo would be that very quick, as fast as you can, an off-air maneuver to get that camera as quick as you can to the next person, and then you would cut to it. Whereas if you're on air, you want to use something like the time mode, and you can either do medium, fast, or slow here if you want in a pinch, or if you go into the adjust menu, you can actually set your the number of seconds. So I think I had about 5 seconds to do the maneuver. And so then you can see here, I'm on person number 1, and then I would be basically pressing to the preset for the 2 shots. So that as so he's thrown to that person. Where is he? Okay, so he's thrown to that person, and then I can, because she's right next to him, I know I can pull out the 2 shot, and I can keep that live on air. So it gives me a little more flexibility than always having to cut back to a wide shot and then always sort of cutting back into a tight shot. So there are some fun things that you can do when you're on air and have some smooth maneuvers between people. The other thing that I used a little bit, although I don't totally love some of the limitations Canon has with this, but for example, in the beginning, using auto tracking when they're moving around. Let me see here, jump back here. Let me just exit out of this. I'm gonna go to my multicam shot, and I'm gonna go pull up wide here. So in the top left here, you can see this is tracking basically on them. I don't like the headroom. I feel like in the free version, Canon doesn't give you the, and some of this is a little janky there. Like some of that, it's like following him, it's going back. So these are some things you got to be sort of aware of. And then you can see I've cut away because I was getting nervous about the auto tracking. Auto tracking's probably better if someone's just in the middle of a speech and they're rolling through it rather than sort of a transition. Here they're introducing the panel. So on program, I've been able to get the wide shot with some movement and just sort of keeping it interesting. And then on camera 2 is getting ready here, trying to sort of find the next shot. It's still auto tracking. Again, I don't love the headroom that's here, which I think is because of the limitations that Canon has in the free version with the silhouette and positioning it. I don't think you can position where you want this face to hit. So that's something I feel like needs a bit of adjusting there. What are we on a wide shot here? So, we're seeing the wide shot. And then shot 3 over here is really just, I'm not doing much with that. That's just kind of cutting back to it if I need to, or like towards the end, we get towards sort of audience questions. So I don't know if that was in there somewhere. There we go. So here you can see like it's cutting to a panel, and I've got a couple of presets there between like a full shot of the room and then one side and then the next side, because partly because this is actually not a Canon PTZ, so that's having to jump away from my profile here to change it through a sort of Visca sort of sub profile that I've got. In, where are we here? In this one here, I've got like a Visca for my tail air cameras. So I've got 3 of those that can just sort of cycle through. But it does mean I have to jump away from my main control panel for the Canon cameras. So that's kind of a look at how I would set up and also cut those cameras. Hopefully that was helpful about how you might use it. What I really like is the ability here to basically be on the one page, and you can select your cameras with this preview button turned on, so that the cameras are always, when you select them, going into preview, so that then you can hit cut to bring that camera on, or hold it down and it'll do an auto transition. And then also just being able to very easily set up a loop effect so that you can sort of zoom in and out like that without having to go and build anything custom. But we can take a look at that. All right, let me have a look here. So let's go have a look at how to build that sort of loop. I'm going to go into, where are we? To build the loop. 77. Okay, so in here is where, instead of a preset, you might want to just sort of create a new button, and then you're looking for custom trace. All caps on, and I want to pull up PTZ1. It's probably going to make the most sense. You've got two commands here, either starting custom trace or stopping a custom trace. So in here you can choose the number of presets. So you could actually have 5 different presets, and I'm just going to use, I do actually have some presets in, let me see, I've got my, I just put it on repo so I go fast. So my wide shot, my sort of mid shot, my close up, my offset shot over here, and then a shot of the desk. So these are the shots that I would go through, and I would align those, I would save these positions, and once they're saved in there, then I can come in here and you could set, so preset 1 would be either just a number, or you could create a custom variable, and if you put a custom variable in there, then you could update the custom variables and just not have to come back in here and type in new presets. So that's another way of doing it. The drive time, 30 seconds. Let's make this 5 seconds because I don't want to be here all day, and you'll probably, just for the demo, you'll get the side of it. Sorry, the idea of it. Start position, I'm going to use the first preset, and it's going to start at the first position that I've put here. So that's going to be preset 1. It's going to go very fast to that. I'm going to put in a 3-second delay. I think if you're using a N700, maybe an N500, I feel like the motors in the cameras are fast enough that they can go really fast and get there under 2 seconds. But if you've got a long pan and zoom to get from one end of the room to the next, you probably want 3 seconds to start that, and then basically a loop until stopped manually. It's just going to keep on cycling. Otherwise, if I unchecked that, you could have it just sort of do a single maneuver and stop, which could be a nice way just to execute a move. Like if you just wanted to have a wide shot, zoom into the stage, and you want it to leave it there, that's where you could just put in, I think it's 0 for repeat, as in it wouldn't repeat. But I'm just going to have it loop until stopped, and then either going around or the pendulum is sort of back and forth between those ones. Let me just give this one a name. I'm going to call this 5 loop. And then under feedbacks, you can actually put in custom traces running for PTZ1. And just check what that's going to look like. It's going to look like this one. I'm just going to pull out my, just going to delete that one. I'm going to move this one in here just so you can see it on the stream deck because it's sort of below the line. So 5 loop, let me just uncheck that. Inverting the feedback is a nice way to just quickly check if the text and the color and all that is showing up the way that you intended. So I'm just going to turn that off. So when it is running, it will show up as red. And then what else? If you want to get really fancy, you could add in a duration group, edit that, and then I usually like half a second. Don't want to wait around all day. Execute while held, turn that on. And then I'm just gonna collapse this. I could move this custom trace to the short release. So a short press will start the trace. And then I can have stop trace, PTZ1, stop custom trace loop. And that should stop it once we hold it. So I'm gonna press the start, hold it down to stop. And let's see if I've done everything that I need to for now. So press the start, it's gonna pull back, give it 3 seconds, and then it's going to take 5 seconds to go into the mid shot, which wasn't much different from the first one. And then it's gonna go into the close-up over 5 seconds, and then hits that, and then it's gonna pull to the side, which was my sort of picture-in-picture framing. And then it's gonna come down to this one, which is showing the desk, and pulling back to wide, and it's gonna keep on looping through that. This one doesn't show much because it doesn't go through there. And then you can see here, every time it's a new preset, it's updating here too. So it's showing you the last one used was 4, and then it's 5, like that kind of thing. And then if I hold this down, it's no longer running, but it will actually finish the maneuver that it's doing, and then it'll stop wherever it lands. So that's a nice way of, rather than, like, if you cancel it, it's not just, you know, jerking to a stop. It's gonna have a nice little easy transition out. So that is that's how that one works. What else was I gonna show you? I was gonna show you the I had something else, but I forget. In the variables, I showed you the variables, and anyway, that's basically how that works. All right, hopefully that was helpful, and that is how you would use the PTZ. I think I was, or did I have a couple more? I'm trying to remember if I had more event stuff to show you. No, I think that's all I've got. All right, in which case, we're gonna wrap up, and you can go to DJF4.1.1, and that's where you'll find the profiles that I'm talking about here to control PTZ cameras, so that you can, you know, do a one-person show, rock up to an event, and cut with multiple cameras, and do all of the maneuvers and the cutting live. Hope you enjoyed that. Check me out, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye.